we did, you know, what has to happen is sort of perfect timing, because they're coming in to land and they're landing on their belly, but they have to time it in such a way to shut off the engine so the prop stops turning. Well, one of the props hit the ground while it was still just barely turning, so there's a bent prop. So that's that, plus the fact that there's something called sudden stoppage inspection that has to happen on the engine, meaning when the engine stops like that real suddenly because the prop hits the ground, then the whole engine has to be taken out and inspected. So there'll be a cost to that as well. So it's in the thousands of dollars, but it's not a, you know, compared to the safety of the students, everything's good. So,
do you have an ID on the student?
An ID, no. No student ID right now. I'm not going to give that to you just because of the privacy implications. So,
can you give us a little bit of a timeline of what happened this morning and when all this?
Well, the flight goes out. Flights in the morning go out at 8 or 10. This was an 8 o'clock departure. So they went out at 8 o'clock. Actually, they went out to the airplane, did a pre-flight inspection and all that, and then probably took off around 8:30. And they were just doing local training, you know, trying to get the aerial maneuvers up in the airplane and all that. Then they prepared to come back and started to put the landing gear down, and they did not get the 3 green lights that they would expect to see when the landing gear comes down and is locked and safe. So they had an amber, and then they had nothing, as they just were telling me. So, which meant that there was some kind of a malfunction. So they determined eventually which gear it was, so they realized, well, they had a hung gear. They didn't know why. They couldn't get it to go up or down. It was just sticking out there, sort of like a lame duck. So what they had to do was basically burn off some fuel, which they did until just now, and then they just came in and landed. You saw that. So, and the idea was to just reduce the fuel. I mean, when you're landing on grass like this time of year, it's a little dewy and wet. There wasn't any danger of any kind of a fire, but we wanted to make sure of that. So, and all they did was go, as they were circling around, they were talking to each other like an airline flight crew would, first officer and captain, and going through all the checklists again and again, making sure they hadn't forgotten anything. And then when they came down for the practice approaches, they looked at it, finally figured out they wanted to land in the grass. You can't see it from here, but there's a little bit taller grass, a little bit further from the runway. They landed in that just as an extra precaution. The plane stopped in 200 feet, which is really short. I mean, they're usually, but the wheels are going to roll out for 1,000 feet or so. 200 feet is quick. So they had a little deceleration in the cockpit. But other than that, they popped the doors and ran out. The fire department was right there. And everything's good.
When's the last emergency?
Oh, no. They EMTs asked all the questions, and the guys are fine. So, and they refused. They're fine. They said they got over it about an hour ago because they were circling for so long. So,
when was the last emergency landing here?
Oh gosh, 3 years ago maybe. We've actually had, I think in the last 10 years we've had about 4 landings, somewhat like this. And I just spoke before, on this airplane, that piece that I'm talking about is steel, not aluminum, I checked. So what I told you before about it being aluminum is incorrect, it's steel. So it's a little, it's part of the landing gear mechanism, and it just, apparently it's sheared off is what we think, but we'll know more in a couple of days after they inspect it. But
I'm going to officially do another interview with you when I have